Welcome to In the Den with Dr. Jenn, an open-minded and educational place for females to explore sexuality in a comprehensive manner and start thinking about female sexuality outside the box. Now, I had the pleasure recently of organizing the Heart and Soul of Sex Women's Retreat with my guest here, Linda Savage. Linda is a professional speaker, licensed psychologist, and sex therapist who has been exploring the mysteries of sexual healing for over 25 years. She's an ASEX certified sex educator, a diplomate of the American Board of Sexology, and a member of the Institute of Marital and Sexual Therapy. Linda specializes in working with couples on a variety of sexual issues. Great to have you here, Linda. Thank you so much.
Great to be here.
I first would like to ask you about the work that you do with couples around sexual issues. So first of all, and I don't know if you can reduce it to this, but are there three biggest factors that you see facing couples seeking you for therapy?
Well, that is reducing it quite a lot. Excuse me. Basically, what we've got now with long-term couples, not the short-term, we're still hot because it's early sex, is a belief that there's a gold standard for sexuality, and it's usually based on people's either reading material and movies or their own experience with early sex, courting, single years, etc. So that's the gold standard. So fast forward 5 years later, and we have a couple that have become bored in the bedroom. Certain things are happening or not happening, and they're still thinking it ought to be like it used to be.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest problems, is this comparison to some expectation in the sky. And it's fueled also by all of the magazines that warn us, oh, you better watch out, better please your man, and then, you know, all of the statistics that get thrown out in the media. Second issue is that we have a culture that bases the idea of sexuality on the male model. And I don't even think males benefit from that model. It's a performance model. It's a very looking at frequency and how long, how often, how this, how that, and you know, it's
goal-oriented.
Yeah, let's go for the big O. And every behavior that occurs often in the bedroom is, let's see how we can produce an orgasm. So that performance model and the anxiety around it, of course, creates problems, and it doesn't fit women's model of sexuality at all. For women, past again that early, easy stage where sex is wonderful because your brain's on drugs, essentially. Women are thinking, wait, what happened to the build-up? What happened to the I adore you? What happened to the I'm really focused on you, you know, kind of sexuality? Not to mean that it has to be self-centered for women, but that there's a real sense of connection.
Absolutely, yeah.
The third one I would say is that we as a culture are very afraid of aging. And some people think they're aging at 30. I have friends, they're like, I'm getting old. And I'm like, please. Okay, so what happens is people begin to notice, oh, I'm not getting as wet as I used to, or I'm not lasting as long, or I'm not, you know what I mean? So they're looking at this expectation again, and they then attribute it to aging. And of course, the culture wants us to believe that aging is a big disease, and that adds fuel to the flame. And so I see people in their 40s and 50s really believing that it's over the hill. It's downhill from here, forget it. And they're very depressed about it, actually.
Wow. So I'm hearing you mention a lot of what sound like myths around sexuality, around relationship, and these sound like they're creating a lot of problems in relationships.
Correct.
Any other myths that you think are big out there or prevailing?
Everybody else is having more and better sex than I am. There's a normal way to do sex. That's another good myth. There's a right way and wrong way. That's the subtitle of that one. And let's see. Well, then we've got the myths around what's okay to be able to do. You know, what's your orientation, and is that normal, and all of that. You know, so the whole cultural conversation about what sex should be and who you should have sex with and all that.
Absolutely. And so a lot of the normality thing. And
Right.
to me, where I'm really seeing that is around female sexual dysfunction, that I
Correct.
feel like that's so big in the media. There's growing trends around products, you know, to target and fix, you know, women's low libido. What's going on here?
First of all, I'd really like to kick that word libido out of our vocabulary. It's on every pharmaceutical list, and everybody's going, oh, I have low libido. And I try hard not to laugh because I'm like, what do you mean by that? So the term is a sort of amorphous term generated out of the analytical psychiatry movement. And it could mean anything from desire, arousal, dysfunction, you name it. You know, low libido. So
yeah.
What's going on with women in particular, which I think is very insidious, is we have now this effort to medicalize women's sexuality. So we have a new term called FSD, meaning female sexual dysfunction. Well, that's about as generic a term as I can imagine. But Scientific American published an article, I think it was in 2000, that said 43% of women will have FSD sometime in their lives. And I laugh because I go, sometime in their lives, that would mean everybody is going to have a period of time where sex isn't working well for them. But, you know, everybody's alarmed. And, of course, the pharmaceutical companies, bless their hearts, are trying to come up with a cure. Now, there's a whole movement called the New View of Women's Sexual Concerns. And it's a feminist movement. Unfortunately, it's being sort of set aside as that's a feminist movement, sort of like angry women burning their bras. But at the heart of it is looking at all the factors that affect women's sexuality. And if we look at not just middle-class couples, the kind that would come to sex therapy, but women, low income, poverty level, et cetera, we've got everything from economic, sociological, to power differentials in their marriage or their relationships, to unwanted pregnancies, to STDs, you name it. So there's been an attempt to rename what's going on for women. And my particular way of renaming it has to do with looking at the 3 stages of women's adult lives. So whether you look at the New View or you look at looking at women's lives as very distinct developmental stages, you really have to understand it holistically.
Absolutely. So a reclaiming of that for us.
Correct.
So our final question, and this is the randomly generated Gorilla Soapbox question. Let's see what comes up here. Oh, have you ever experienced an orgasm that felt transcendent? Nice.
Yeah, well, it's one of my favorite topics, actually. You picked a good one. Yeah. The fact that our sexuality experiences can be very spiritual is now something that more people are talking about, and I've been talking about it for 10 years at least. So, transcendent, what does that mean? Sense of loss of your body, merging with the universe, feeling of oneness with your partner, being bathed in this energy light. I mean, it's a lot of ways to describe it, and yes, I have.
You have?
It's probably one of the things that's gotten my attention. It's why I've gotten in the sex field. And I've even had it in dream states. So there's a whole story in my book about having had that experience in a dream state. But yeah, I have. And what's interesting about it is that you can't make it happen. You can't sit down and go, okay, tonight I'm going to have a transcendent orgasm, and I will sit here until it happens. A lot of people have it spontaneously. But the thing that I always encourage men and women is that it is an option, it is a possibility. And there are conditions that will make it more likely to happen. You know, you've got the physiological orgasm, which can be very disappointing. I hear a lot of women say, yeah, I have an orgasm, but I'm not that interested in having sex. So just the physical release thing, although it gets a lot of people's attention early on, becomes sort of, yeah, been there, done that. So the idea that you can expand your body experience to something fully orgasmic then starts getting interesting. That's what makes sex interesting as we age. So
absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here in the den. And if you'd like to learn more about Linda, you can go to www.goddesstherapy.com to find out about her work, her book, and all that she does for sexual health and happiness.